Raining pretty hard today, so I'm going to shoot off of my phone here under the canopy of a tree and try and stay a little bit dry. This right here, what you're seeing down this line, that's the highest point on my property. Now, people always ask, where are the swales? You can't really see there, but if you could see, there's no overland flow running on this property right there. That's a key point that I'll come back to. Because when I first got on this property, the goal was to do some permaculture, whatever that means. I wanted to just come in and impose permaculture upon the site, and I've since learned you don't do that, especially when it comes to swales. This slope right here, the first thing I wanted to do was like, where am I gonna put my swale or swales? I was just wanting to dig them, and I would have dug them big if I had dug them. But then what I realized is there's no overland flow right there, so I don't have any water to catch. Again, this is the highest point on my property. If water's gonna flow or come onto my property or go downhill, here's where it would be coming from. One thing I've learned over the years from a lot of great designers, Neil Spackman, Neil Bertrando, Darren Doherty, Larry Santoyo, is that you have to think about swales in terms of context. Do you have overland flow that you need to capture? If you do, you put in a swale. If you don't, it doesn't matter. I don't have much catchment above my property, so there's not a lot of water upslope from me that's being caught that needs to be caught in a swale. So I'm not getting a deluge of water flowing onto the property that a swale would catch. So what that means is all the water flowing right into here is coming via rainfall. Now, what's the benefit of adding a lot of organic matter to your soil? It soaks up a lot of water. The water holding capacity of your soil goes way up. So the more organic matter you put in your soil, the more you increase the water holding capacity of your soil via adding organic matter, via stimulating biolife, rotational grazing, whatever it is you do, the more water your soil is going to be able to soak up, the less you're going to need to try and capture that water in a physical obstruction like a swale. So between the lack of catchment above the property up there and the water holding capacity of the soil here, I don't get runoff on my property. It just doesn't flow down. Now, I'll show you in a second where I do have a couple swales, but that's only because I've made the runoff come onto my property. But right here, it's not. There's no problem, so I don't need a solution. I'm not going to impose a solution here. I'm just going to go with what works. I didn't need a swale, so I didn't put one in. Keep in mind, this is me speaking from a lot of experience, because when I came into the property here, the whole goal, like I said, was to permaculture it. And I wasted a lot of time, money, and resources trying to do that because I just did things to do them versus doing things because I had to do them. Not putting a swale in here was one of the things I'm glad I didn't do. So I do have a few swales on my property, but that's only because I've created runoff coming onto my property. Now, you want to see my big, bad permaculture beast of a swale, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. It's right here. That swale. That swale is shovel width. It took 5 minutes to dig with just a normal shovel, no excavator required, no petroleum, just guns right here. Easy to dig, and it works. It catches a lot of water. It's coming from water off that driveway, and this is one of those permaculture principles of least change for the greatest effect. This driveway's a lot of catchment. It's huge, it goes way up top, there's a big parking area up there. As a result, a lot of the water flows down this slope, and the driveway is banked into my property. So what I did is put a very subtle, simple notch right here in the driveway, and that one notch there catches a lot of the water, which is naturally sloping to this side of the driveway from up there, and it channels it into this swale, which then has the ability to go downslope on my property right there. So I'm getting gallons and gallons of free water here. Again, example of least change for the greatest effect. Doesn't have to be big to be effective, but it solves a problem, or it solves a problem that I created by channeling this water onto my property. So if you're not getting a lot of water on your property from catchment above it, look at ways like this. Are there subtle ways you can try and get some water off adjacent properties to come onto your property, and then do little things to try and catch that water. Again, shovel width swale, took about 5 minutes to dig. Simple, simple, simple. Now with that swale you just saw, some water does bypass that, and there's also some catchment below it. So here's another example of a notch right here in the driveway, just a tiny, tiny half-inch notch that diverts water into a swale here, which I've snaked back into this area of trees here. Catches, so effectively between these two notches in the driveway, I'm catching all the water coming off that driveway, and I'm able to channel it in to what is more like a food forest. This is probably zone 4. There's some fruit trees there. That's a guava. I don't do much management down here. I'm starting to put in ice plant just as a ground cover. Low maintenance. A lot of the water that comes in here for the year, where I'm really trying to hydrate the soil, is through this swale and the catchment on it. I have one more swale to show you on my property. I'll show you that in a second. Here is the third and final swale on my property. Nothing fancy, and it doesn't have to be fancy to be effective. You don't need big equipment. You don't need excavators. Darren Doherty's talked about this. Try not to come in and bring a scalpel onto the land. You know, do a lot of massive facelift to the land. You want to be more of like a massage artist. You want to just subtly move things around. It's like, how much can you not do? How much can you not remove? Or what's the least amount you can remove and still get the greatest effect? This driveway right here that runs up that way, there's a lot of catchment coming off of that. It's a super long driveway. A simple notch is all it took to divert a fair amount of water, as much water as my soil under me can hold, into this swale. I have just a simple spillway here that hooks it down around back again. And this tree right here gets a lot of water from this. So this is an area initially when I moved onto the property. The goal was to put a big berm in right here. Why? Because I wanted to, because I thought it needed it, because it just seemed right. Not from observation. There was no need base for this berm that I wanted to put in here, yet I spent about a day starting to move soil here, and I eventually abandoned the project, which I'm glad I did early, because there's no flow. If you look, there's nothing coming off that surface there that I needed a big berm to catch. I just wanted to build a berm because I thought it would be cool, and I thought it'd be more permaculture, but it didn't matter. So the moral of the story of all this: do the least amount of change for the greatest effect and arrive at the solution. Don't impose the solution. By doing those two things, I've saved myself a lot of resources, time, money, and water. And I've learned that lesson by wasting a lot of those things: time, money, and water. So be smart about your design. Don't impose it. Just think and observe and react based on that. Thanks for watching. Until next time, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.